Colby Joyner. I just had to say his name like that because I didn't know how else to start this podcast.
This is Auto Collabs.
No, Colby joined us.
He did. Oh, we haven't started an episode off with a bad joke yet.
That was too bad.
It was.
I can see the look in Kyle's eye. He's like, start over.
All right, Kyle. Well, how would you have started this episode? We'll give you a shot.
Well, I'll tell you this. The first time that I met Colby was actually at a digital dealer, and I met him in person. And he, at that point, was working for Alex Flores, which if you know Alex Flores, he is full of energy. And
That's an understatement.
I'm watching Colby just manage that energy,
channel it,
and just like manage the heck out of it, and make sure like he's in the right place at the right time, and he is like just with expert skill and care, and not just that, but he was so intentional to just come up to me and be like, "I know you have a podcast, and I appreciate that." I know I have a lot to learn about managing podcasts, because they had started a podcast at that point. And there's never been a point where I've ever felt like Colby's like, I got it down, you know? Yeah. Everybody else doesn't know what's up. And he's done us so much in automotive. And for him to just have this humility and like, I'm going to approach things with, hey, that's an expert in the field. Let's follow that.
Yeah.
And I see that through and through in him.
All right. That was a better intro than ours.
That was much more thoughtful. What I will hopefully try and add to that, just my own impression of Colby as I've gotten to know him. He's a strategic thinker. He knows how to draw parallels really quickly.
Without a doubt.
But it's not only like, hey, I'm willing to learn. He then goes and puts in the learning. To the degree that you're like, did you... Like the Matrix, he's like, I know Kung Fu. He just learns it so deeply because he's willing to get his hands dirty. And so I'm excited for us to be able to hang out with him and learn what he's got to say here on the Auto Collabs podcast.
All right, we are hanging out with my good friend, Colby Joyner. Colby is with Connect AI and a good friend of a lot in the automotive industry. So, Colby, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thank you, man. I'm freaking stoked.
There you go. Yeah, Colby is definitely a SODU friend and is all around kind of everything that we're doing. We were actually just talking that he's tired of our voices most days because he starts his day off listening to our other podcast. But Colby, I want to get a little voice. Yeah, I want to get a little bit into just where you're at, what you're doing, because a lot of people know you. You were with Alex Flores for a long time, kind of in and out and back in with his ventures, kind of with the stores there in Austin and San Antonio, and then his new stores. And just recently, you've transitioned back to the industry partner side with Connect. So I guess kind of walk us through what it looked like for you to move from that dealer side, and what the intention was in moving to the industry partner side again, and what you were hoping to accomplish both there and with the industry.
Man, so so my main purpose of moving from the dealer side to being an industry partner really was to be able to attempt to affect change at a larger scale. Right. So I know that if you're at a store, Kyle, you understand that, being at a store, but when you're at a store, you can affect change within the store. But so much of your time is in that store. You're spending, you're bell to bell, you're 12 hours a day, and you don't have a lot of time to, take a breath and have a conversation outside of what's going on in that store. So, the change into that industry partnership and going on this side was really to attempt at the best that I can to try to be an asset to help the industry as a whole. Not, trying to offer whatever I can, that was my main largest goal, is to be able to collaborate and adapt and move in the direction that I think that we need to go as an industry. And I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to offer whatever I can, to be able to do that. The best way to do that is on this side as an industry partner, to try to facilitate it throughout the whole industry.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question first, because
you all know each other a little bit better. I mean, we've gotten to know each other a little bit over this last year, but I don't know the answer to this question. How did you get into the auto industry? Because I think it'd be helpful for you to just talk about that quickly. And then I think for our listeners, giving them the context of the experience you're coming from, like the level that you had your hands in the dirt inside the dealership, is really important, because it's easy, I think, for people to just assume that an industry partner, like, oh, I just want to bring you my angle on things. And so I want to broaden that out a little bit, because I know you're kind of like have a really deep understanding. So how did you get into the industry? And then what areas of the stores, have you experience in?
So, I started selling cars when I was 18, and I did it for about 9 months. And that's about as long as that 3 solid paychecks held me, because I was so bad at selling cars. I worked at a Chrysler store that no longer exists, but it was a Chrysler only store in South Austin. And, at that time, Chrysler really didn't have anything. It was right when the 300 came out. They had the Crossfire, but then other than that, you're selling, a Sebring or a van. And the demographic, the age demographic that was coming in.
Wait. Before we keep going, can we just stop and recognize that the Crossfire was a car that like Chrysler and Chrysler dealers had to figure out how to sell into a market?
The little Chrysler branded Mercedes.
Right.
It was actually one of my favorite cars to repair wheels on when I had my wheel refinishing business.
Really?
It was so easy, and they were all damaged.
But I couldn't even
every one of them.
I couldn't even test drive it because it was so
like
small.
that one's got wheel damage. I don't even need to look. That's hilarious.
I couldn't even test drive them because they were so small. I'd had to say, hey, here's the keys, go drive it, because I couldn't even get into the car. It was so small. It was horrible. But yeah, no, I mean, but the age demographic that was coming in and purchasing the vehicles at a Chrysler only store, they would look at me like, what is this kid trying to sell me something, trying to negotiate and tell me that this is the best payment and this is the best term. And it didn't go well, right? It didn't go well at all. So I was like, okay, yeah. So my only plan B was join the military. So I joined the military, went in the military and did all that. Got out of the military, was
Which
a medic
branch?
for a while. Air Force. I was an air traffic controller in the Air Force. Wow. And so got out of the military, became a medic, quickly got hurt, blew my back out as a medic. And then and people typically make fun of me, and it's okay. But I ended up becoming a massage therapist. So I became a massage therapist, and I did that for several years. And
all these things actually track, but keep going.
Yeah. No, I actually utilize, so it's a learning experience across the board, right? But became a massage therapist and became an instructor and advanced neuromuscular therapist and started working on sports players and stuff. But still at that point, with a family, I had kids and everything, and I wasn't making any money. I was not, there's no way I could make $100,000. There's no way that I could make anything that was sustainable. And so I told my wife one day, I said, hey, I'm gonna go sell cars. So I just started selling cars. And then that's kind of led me to here.
What changed between the starting to sell cars the second time? I mean, aside from a whole life of experience as an air traffic controller, really a medic,
right,
and a massage therapist and an instructor, aside from all that life experience, like what was different in your mind that made you successful at it the second time around?
When I was 18, I didn't understand consequences. And so if I didn't try hard, I didn't understand that I wasn't going to get paid.
Gotcha.
And so going into
life
it
will do that to you, right?
Yeah, at an older age,
family,
I had no way that I could fail. I had to figure it out and get it done. So I just
give us the 2-minute from when you went back to start selling cars to when you decided to join Connect. Give it what happened in that gap.
So sold cars. I was only on the floor selling cars for 9 or 10 months, and then ended up meeting Alex and was an internet manager over at Capital, like within 9 or 10 months of me starting to sell cars. Left him, came back to my original store as an internet director, and then left that store, went back to Alex as a marketing director, and then left there, was an industry partner for a little bit, came back into automotive as a marketing director, and then ended up, internet director, BDC director, going into platform director and sales manager. And,
whatever
head
was
janitor.
needed at the moment, right?
Yeah. Whatever
Yeah.
was needed. I was trying to be the facilitator, right? That's what I wanted to do, is just help in any way.
So it sounds like a majority of your time on the dealer side was spent on the like internet manager, BDC marketing, kind of arena. Where did you see the largest opportunity for growth, both, and I'm guessing it has something to do with what you're doing now, but where did you see the largest opportunity for growth in like that form of this business? It's that form of this business is taking over 90% of all the transactions, but where were the breakdowns, where were the opportunities, where were the things that were good about it that you kind of perceived from your position?
I just saw opportunity, right? That's the biggest thing, is looking at software. I mean, I don't have any formal education background, right? I graduated from college. I graduated from high school, did a little bit of college, never graduated college, but I've always kind of just had this street smart kind of, I can figure things out. And I just saw that as the biggest opportunity to affect a change or to be a part of a change. If you look at like the sales tower or finance, or even just on the sales floor, it's an alpha male type game, or it was, before. And I saw that the biggest opportunity was inside the BDC, looking at the digital, looking at leads, how to engage with them, using a little bit of that compassion and understanding that I learned from being a massage therapist, and being able to be hyper focused and task driven from the military, but then also I'm like the Sour Patch Kid, I'm sweet and sour at the same time, so I could do both. I could understand the humanity in it, but I also understood the process.
This guy's like, he's like, over here we got our task list, and if you don't do it, the mission fails. Also, air traffic control, you move here, you move there, you go there, and this pulls a lever, and don't fly in this zone, and blah blah blah. And over here, just make sure you practice some empathy when you're doing all of that, because humans like massage therapists, right? He's like, put it all in one, right?
Yeah, but that's where I could see the biggest opportunity for change, is that the department, the internet department, the BDC department, it was always kind of put in the back room. It was always blamed for failures and never applauded for success. And so I saw an ability to go back in there and say, hey, let's make some changes. Let's adapt a little bit. Let's utilize some newer software, newer processes, newer ways to communicate with the customers. Let's change the way that we're talking to the customers, and so that's really why I went down that path. And I'm super fortunate that the people that were, that hired me at the stores, or that were, mentors to me at the stores, were able to see that that was my spot to shine. Don't put me in finance. I wasn't the best sales manager. I could do one-on-ones great. I could have counseling sessions. I could do some good training. But when it came down to that other stuff, I wasn't the best at that. But where I was shining was that. So everybody, they would allow me to go in those directions that I needed to go, to be successful, not only for myself, but for them.
Man, the air traffic controller thing is still stuck in my head.
Dude,
that's a super high pressure job, right? Air traffic control, like people wash out of that because it's like, a lot of people just can't cut all the moving pieces and the pressure, like the high stakes of it all. And so I just understand so much more about your personality and how I've seen you operate. That I know you were an air traffic controller in the Air Forces. All of a sudden I'm like, that's how he kept the demeanor, kept it moving forward, right? Understood the pieces. I love that part of the story, which is one of the reasons automotive is so great, because there are a zillion stories like this where you see someone as a high operator within the industry and you realize you can map it back to all these other things that they've done, all this other experience they brought into the world, and there's a home for it inside this industry. Like countless people.
It's interesting because I said it to my dad this weekend, but I put it on a little Instagram reel today, and it was a situational change creates resiliency. So the more, as I had to change and my situation just completely flipped, multiple times. It's constant change. I was able to become more resilient to that change and be able to be far more adaptable to any scenario. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It's just I know that about myself now versus where I was 15 years ago.
It's just the truth.
Yeah, that's some self-awareness, because, recognizing that those opportunities give you a greater capacity to serve in whatever role you're in currently is really, and I don't know if you even drew some of those straight lines. I'm like, a licensed massage therapist, an air traffic controller, and an ex-military walk into a bar and come out as one person. Like, what's the story after that? It's that they're in car sales, right?
Yeah.
Naturally. Like that's the story.
They
It's
walked
like,
into a building. What building did they walk into? You're like, good dealership. Because they work
obviously,
there.
because
they work
that's-
there now.
It's interesting because you think about it, the volume of people that we work with and the type of different people, I used to say when I was selling cars, I would say, I've met people that do things that I don't think half the people in the world even recognize are a job. Like it's people don't even know that that's a thing that people do. It's a part of the ecosystem that somehow gets skipped as like, growing up, I wanna bees, that person's job just isn't even in the vernacular of whatever we do. And sometimes to connect with those, see what I did there? Sometimes to connect with those types of people, you have to have some level of background that allows you to recognize that different experiences with different people, like you learn that aspect of touching different ecosystems across different silos of business. And I think that that's unique for you, is you bring a even more level of empathy to customer communication that maybe some people that either grew up in the business or have only done one role or something like that may not have, because of these opportunities you've had to see people in different ways. And that's, I think that's super valuable, and it probably is more of the story of automotive than not. You think about, man, now I'm just, my brain, my wheels are turning about how so many people in automotive have done so many different roles, especially like growing up in high school and college, because that's actually the proving ground for your efficiency in automotive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a really cool thing. So now fast forward to, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's why automotive has such an opportunity to have exponential growth, is because the more that you communicate back and forth to people in the industry, the more that you get deeper than surface level. I'm this, I'm the GSM, or I'm a sales manager, or I'm a finance manager. If you go below that, right, and you get to know people and actually become friendly with them and understand who they are, you're able to learn a lot more about life and everything outside of automotive, which makes you better in automotive. And that's the interesting thing about automotive, is we're this hodgepodge of people, that come from so many different various backgrounds. And the more that you communicate, the better that we all are. So that's why one of the biggest reasons that I'm an ASOTU fan is because that whole conversation is built about, hey, who are you? What are you about? What are you doing? How are you trying to affect change? And it creates those conversations that need to be had, so that, I think I've said it literally on like every podcast, every video thing I've ever been on, but the thing I believe more than anything is a rising tide raises all boats. So the more that we're able to communicate,
Truth.
we build that tide up, and we start really impacting a lot of things.
Truth.
It's good. So fast forward now, you are you've moved from the dealership world into a company called Connect AI that was actually birthed out of a dealership group. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
So what was the reason?
Connect,
I guess before,
why don't you just spell it for anyone who's just listening? It's with a K.
Yeah. So Connect is KONECT.
There you go. .ai. Just want to make that clear
AI.
for someone who's not watching and can't see it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that was birthed out of a dealer group. What was the reason why, maybe before you came on, that the dealer group that birthed this technology saw a need or an opportunity within automotive create something that was this type of connection communication platform?
Yeah, so the dealer group that still is, our parent company in this whole thing, they have a whole strategic innovation arm, right, where they have full of retail establishments and 40 stores almost, and then they have the strategic arm, which is Connect and several other different subsidiaries, and those subsidiaries are all based off of items and areas in automotive that they deemed as we were kind of missing. Right, there's ways that we can impact change outside, because Connect and the other subsidiaries aren't just for the dealer group; they are for automotive in general. So it's, how do we make a change in automotive? How do we help automotive in general get better at communication, or get better at the retail experience, or get better at acquisitions, you name it.
So I know a little bit about the platform, but I'd love for you to, you don't need to do a full demo or anything right now, but I'd like you to explain maybe a little bit more to the listener exactly what Connect is, because when we say a communication platform, we've got CRMs, and we've got we've got call systems, and we've got texting platforms, and we've got a bunch of different ways that we are attempting to communicate from employee or dealer to customer across the industry. And what you're saying is there was a gap in that foundation, and that Connect is attempting to solve, both for their dealers and for the industry. What's that gap, and how are you seeking to kind of fill that for dealers? So
I would say it's less than a gap. It's less of a gap and more of a reimagination using technology.
Okay.
Right. And so, we're still a communications platform. So it's not like we just invented this new way of doing something. Artificial intelligence, you look at Google and so many other different huge, massive companies are using AI for customer service or whatever models that they build. But we saw it as a way to kind of reimagine the middle ground between where customers wanting to initially start communicating with the store, and then when the store actually takes it over. Right, because there has been traditionally a lot of just dropped balls at that point, because it's fully reliant on the human ability to follow a process, and that's on a per store, per team in the store basis. And so if we can be able to make sure that customer experience coming into the store with the brand messaging, with the dealer messaging, and everything is aligned as they come into the store. And we have that initial conversation for the dealer to make sure that the customer feels comfortable talking, that the walls are kind of coming down, they're okay with this kind of back and forth. Then we're handing over this warmer lead, right? We're handing a warmer opportunity. I'm really trying to get out of that calling things lead mindset, but we're handing over this warmer opportunity to the store. Not to overtake the store. We're not replacing. There's not a single person in a dealership that we replace. So that's not the goal. The goal is to not replace.
Is that a major hesitancy? Like, do people think that? Is that like a stigma?
Yeah. People think that okay, well, if I have you, then okay, who do I need to let go of? Well, no, it's not that. It's the added piece. I said something the other day of, the fuel additives, you pull up to the, empty your tank and you toss that little 8-ounce fuel additive in there, and now you get a couple of extra miles per gallon. We're the fuel additive. We're that little fuel additive that tosses in the tank because it's going to get you that much more efficient on everything that's coming to you.
Got it. So what results are you, I'm really curious, because everybody's trying to implement more communication, so what results are you seeing when you go in and when you start working with a dealership or dealer group, in the way that these opportunities are being handled and being nurtured into that sales process?
So if we're talking about like KPIs that I could share with you, we're talking about a 30% efficiency increase, right? Proficiency increase in the stores. So more time being spent by your BDRs or your sales staff of having proper communication and engagement with opportunities, instead of just spending time making phone calls or sending emails with no responses. So now more of their time is spent actually communicating with somebody that is wanting to communicate. Secondarily is the way that we track an engagement with a customer is only based on positive intent and positive sentiment, right? We're not sitting here saying, hey, somebody messaged us twice, so hey, they engaged with us, and so we're going to give you that, we're going to count that for us. No, we're only counting the people that are positively engaging with our AI and handing it over to you. And we're seeing a 65% positive engagement and 65% engagement going towards the dealer.
Well, that first key I think is in general good to key in on for anything in the dealership, is that technology has the potential to decrease efficiency because of multiple entry or anything that, like, now I'm logging into another thing. But these ways to increase efficiency, right? We heard over the pandemic that average car sold per person went from that 12 range up to that 16 range, which means salespeople are being more leveraged to spend more time with guests, which means that they are less leveraged to spend time communicating. We've got a tightened job market where it's hard to find people because unemployment is so low, and so just finding all of these little inefficiencies frees you up to do something else at the dealership. And I think that this is actually, Paul and I were talking about this morning, how, things like education and delivery and the things where, like, very, very close one-on-one interpersonal connection at a dealership are going to be so much more important as we go for the next 3 or 4 years, that if we can free ourselves up, no matter what the technology, Connect or another technology in a different part of the dealership, if we can free ourselves up to be more efficient in those areas and have more FaceTime or interpersonal connection with customers when they need it the most, I think that that's a win no matter what technology that you're looking to implement in a dealership. Right?
Yeah. We're talking about automating automating the process, but not automating the human in the relationship build. Right. And so the more that we can automate a process, because a process is typically automated. Right? You can't say, I have a process, but then it doesn't fire correctly every time. Well, no, you don't have a process. You have an idea. And so if you are able to automate portions of that process and make the process automated, then you, like you said, Kyle, you free up the human being to be a human being and engage in a relationship style sales. And so our job is to create that lift of engagement, that lift of opportunities coming into the store and being able to actually speak with a salesperson one-on-one. And that's where you're going to get that higher brand and or dealer loyalty when you get that situated.
The people side of the business, as we're hearing, like you just mentioned, Kyle, like we talk about this element of what is going to be the requirement or the need, the human interaction need over the next, 3, 4, 5 years. It's not about pulling people out of the stores. It's actually about refocusing them to make those connections, because an education connection is actually a really strong one, because someone came to you confused and you cleared it up for them, right? So you do all kinds of things. You show them that you're smart. You build a lot of trust, right? You become their person, right? Their guy or their gal when it comes time for them to have a question. It sounds like what you're doing is really aligned with your kind of heart for people in general, right? To move them from one place to the next place, to the next place, right? Air traffic control, one place to the next place, to the next place. Massage therapists, like on the pro level, right? Moving them from some level of pain or immobility to be able to go and walk. So I see the thread that's going through,
without a doubt.
Exactly how it's totally aligned with your personality. I'm going to ask you this final question. So the industry is in a time when I think there's just people are juggling a lot of things, and we don't know where exactly everything is going to fall when it comes down. We're trying to best to place our hand under the ball when it falls. What would one line of advice be that you would give to auto dealers? Granted, you have a lot of experience from inside the dealership and a lot of perspective from outside the dealership. If you could tell them to focus on one thing for the next 12 months, right? We're not talking 3, 4, 5 years. Where do you see the most opportunity for a dealer if they focus?
Reduce and streamline everything. That would be my biggest thing. Reduce. you can't have, unless you're my wife, who happy anniversary to my wife today.
Congrats.
Unless it's my daughter's 6th birthday at the same time. So happy birthday, happy anniversary.
Did you buy the dog on the anniversary? Was the dog an anniversary gift?
No, she bought
Just
the dog.
happened to be born on the
randomly.
anniversary.
Yeah.
I guess you
She called me. She called me and said, "Hey, we bought a Shih Tzu," and I said, "Oh, we did. That's nice."
said, "Holy."
No, but you can't focus on 13 things at once and try to make sure all 13 things work correct. So the more that you're able to reduce and have a very good aligned plan on how you operate as a store, how you operate as a culture, how you operate internally, and the perception of the external, right? So how they handle their customers outbound. The more that you're able to streamline that and get it just airtight, the more that in the varying situations that are to come, you at least know how you handle them. I think one of the biggest issues is that people don't know how to handle the situations when they arise, because now they feel like they have to add the 14th thing to make sure that they cover that, and then you keep stacking and stacking and stacking, and then you lose sight. You kind of don't have the ability to track it all.
What's the main thing again, right? I just have all these things, and it's hard to tell the main things. So what I hear you saying is, in these complex times, you're like, dealers, anything you can do to take away, to get simpler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the goal. And so in that turn, like with Connect, Kyle was saying it earlier, and I was going to say it, but with Connect, there's not a purpose or a reason for the dealer to have to log in to anything. There's not a browser window you have to have open. You don't have to go in and check anything. We have the report. We're building this really, really cool report, which I'll share more later, but it's a different way of looking at reporting. But we have a report that just gets sent over to the dealer and the people that we need to send it over. Other than that, everything will go into the CRM. Every ounce of communication that you need to know about what we did and what we said, the dealer will know, the BDR will know, whoever's assigned to it will know. It's all placed in there easily for them because that's their wheelhouse. They're comfortable sitting in the CRM. So I'll send it over to them and let them look at it in there. They don't have to have another window open that's going to slow down their, 15-year-old PC. Right? They just need to have the CRM.
Shots fired. Sitting right in front of the dot matrix printer.
Right. So that's but I want to make it simple. It's simple. You don't have to log in. You don't have to. There's no reason for it. I want to eliminate that concern of, I got to check this, then I got to check this, and I got to check this. Just streamline it. Just make it easy. We do our job on our end, and it gives you more opportunities on yours.
Well, Colby, awesome. I'm excited to see where this all goes. I'm excited to hang out with you a little at a SodaCon in person.
Absolutely. My first time to Philly too, so I'm excited.
Oh my goodness. That just makes me so happy.
The man's got to get a cheesesteak,
Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Well, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I can't wait to see what the next iteration is going to be for you and for Connect.
Man, it's a pleasure being able to just hang out with y'all. I love it.
What we figured out is that basically you could have an air traffic controller, a former Air Force enrollee, and a licensed massage therapist walk into a bar and come together and figure out how to run a new business. And Colby just did the whole thing all at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
It's quite impressive. No, because I think that this happens a lot in automotive, especially people that kind of try and find their way in a few things. Mm-hmm. And we see that those people are much more acclimated to the types of changes and shifts and consumer and customer and partner dynamics that are necessary to be able to approach problems and topics in automotive. So people that have these wide ranges of experience actually come into automotive and learn how to focus all of that energy. And I think that he's done that through a few different mediums. And I love where he's taking this conversation of like, hey, we have to free up our people to be able to serve customers more, to take away some of the tasks that maybe they're doing or not doing well, and freeing them up to do others.
Well, that's the focus on the right solution, right? It's easy to get in the weeds on, whatever your product provides or whatever like lane you're running in to say this is the most important thing. I love how he's always looking over the horizon. We're like, no, we're just doing this so that you can do that, right? And you can do that doesn't mean close more sales. Yes, everybody wants to close more sales, but understanding that giving the customer the better experience is something that closes more sales and helps the industry as a whole. And.
It makes sense though. Air traffic control, isn't that's like the rated as the most stressful job that that an individual could possibly have. So as I'm listening to the two of you on the back of that conversation, it makes sense to me that he knows how to focus energy, because I mean, anybody could oversimplify air traffic control and say, help planes take off and land.
Yeah.
But
how hard could it be?
Yeah. But you were saying about seeing ahead of the horizon. It makes sense to me because, all he can control is what's on his radar, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know there's other airplanes in the air so it's like, man, there's so much complexity.
And staying calm, right? Like you have to keep your composure.
Which he is super calm.
Oh, it made so much sense. I'm like, you are an air traffic controller. This might be easier for you.
Yeah.
The way he handles situation. I mean, we've seen him handle just some like all kinds of stuff and all kinds of energy flowing and emotion flowing and details flowing. He just kind of, okay. Right? I just picture that air traffic controller. I hear him in my head. Okay, we gotta go to heading 117. And he drops the mic and is like, they're gonna die.
They're gonna die. I want to see an air traffic controller like plan out a dealership. Like how do you get to the service bay? They're gonna have to cars will have to enter a pattern,
approach it,
drive around the.
Oh man, oh man. Well, all that we say, it put a lot of pieces together. And these are definitely the stories that we love because we know we need such a texture of people in automotive and people coming to automotive with those backgrounds. And there's a lot of people that didn't start off saying, I want to be a car dealer. I want to be in the automotive industry. Colby is one of the best. It was good to spend some time on behalf of Kyle Mounts here, Michael Cirillo, and myself. Thanks for listening to the Auto Collabs podcast. Welcome to Auto Collabs. Why are we recording?